All right, welcome back to another 2021 MLB Draft Team Preview. This is a big one for my co-host here, Joe Doyle. We're doing the Seattle Mariners, of course, Joe's hometown team. His pride and joy, not so much right now.
My pride. Hold on.
His pride. His joy in the farm system, because they are loaded. They're stacked throughout. They got arms. They got a fair amount of position players. But one area of need is position players in the middle infield, particularly those that could be short to the major leagues. We know Noelvi Marte is way down in the farm, but he's an A-ball, probably at least a few years away. So you're looking for someone that maybe can come to the majors in the next couple of years and I guess sort of time themselves with the first wave of this draft. Joe, I'm going to kick it over to you. Is there anybody in particular in this draft class that fits into that profile, or is there a different profile you think Seattle could even go to as they're picking at 12?
Yeah, I think Seattle's in an interesting spot in that 12th pick because if you're in that 1 through 9 range, there's a lot of really high profile preps that you can target. So I don't think Seattle's going to get a shot at the guys like, Harry Ford and Jordan Lawler and Khalil Watson. I think they're going to be just outside of that range. So really what they're going to be looking at, in my opinion, is going to be a crop of college talent that really fits what they've done in the last few years. Emerson Hancock last year, college arm, big conference. And then George Kirby and Logan Gilbert the last 2 years, smaller school guys, but big college performers. I do think they're going to go away from the college arm pick that they've done the last few years. At least that's what I've heard. I think Matt McLain is really lining up for the Seattle Mariners right now. Really came on end of March to about the end of April. He hit 7 home runs, I think, in the month of April. And he's come back here for the College World Series Regionals, and he's really shown off the bat a little bit more. I don't know if Noelvi Marte is going to be a shortstop at the big league level. He's still having issues throwing the baseball. So that's going to be something that the team is going to have to watch. So you need a backup plan. And I think a guy like Matt McLain is obviously a pretty good option. There are some other options. I mean, Ty Madden, of course, makes some sense. Colton Cowser makes some sense. You could see them going the Gavin Williams route, another big college perform arm if they don't believe in Matt McLain. And then I think the one maybe sleeper here would be if the team has seen enough from Sal Frelick to play second base. I think that's an interesting bat that could be a spark plug at the top of the lineup. Jeff, you have a pretty good understanding of what's going on in Seattle's system. You've seen a lot of these guys, Sal Frelicks of the world. Where do you think the team could go with the 12th pick in the draft?
Yeah, I think it's funny because they have a fair amount of options. They're relatively loaded, I think, in terms of the outfield. We have Trammell now at the major league level. You and I both before the show were talking about how he's looked more impressive in his stint in AAA, and then since he's come back up, he seems like he's pocketed some of the more passive tendencies that he has in terms of his plate approach. We know Jared Kelenic has struggled at the major league level. I don't anticipate that to maintain for a long period of time. Just a little cold streak to start his career. You know what happened with Alex Bregman? Everyone calm down. That's my little message for Seattle Mariners fans. And then you have Kyle Lewis, and once he's back and healthy, and you have Julio Rodriguez, who isn't terribly far from the major league. So I don't see them necessarily needing to go with an outfielder, and especially the outfielders that are kind of mentioned there when you're talking about somebody like Cowser or somebody like Sal Frelick. I don't know. I think that, funny enough, until he made an enormous climb up the board, Henry Davis seemed like a really good fit there. But there's no other guy, when you look at it, outside of Matt McLain that necessarily fits a need and fits the timeline of what they're looking to go after. Now, that said, they are in prime position at 12 to wait and see who potentially can drop out of the top 10. I think we've talked about it a lot. There is an upper tier within this draft, but it's gotten even murky within that upper tier over the last, we'll say, month or so. It's up and down performances from the Vanderbilt starters, and I think where they go can really impact the high school, the prep shortstop class. Does one of those guys potentially drop out of the top 10? And I don't know. We haven't heard much whisperings around Brady House. I don't think Watson necessarily drops out of the top 10. Neither would Lawler or Marcelo Mayer, but there are some other players within that group that could potentially drop down, some arms. And they're also in a position, if they wanted to take a chance on, let's say, a Gunnar Hoglund or someone like that, because they can sit on it for a little bit and then add that to their sort of bevy of arms that they have. I think that's a possibility as well. Another arm that maybe is a possibility is potentially Sam Bachman. If Bachman gets out of that top 10, I think he's another guy that could fall right into their lap. So a lot of it really depends on, of course, how the 11 picks before them go. But with so much uncertainty from pick to pick within that top 10 or top 11, there's a lot that could happen. And they're also in a position to maybe reach 7 to 8 picks ahead of where a lot of our public folks are ranking a player because they like him better than somebody else. So they could end up still with an arm because it might be the best player available at that moment. But Matt McLain, for all intents and purposes, does seem to be the best fit for Seattle's needs, the system, and even the area that they're at and where they're picking, if they're looking just to get the best player.
Yeah, I think that's the important part to note. You never draft for need per se, but Matt McLain at the 12th pick is not a reach by any means. I think a lot of people have him in that 10 to 16 range. So Seattle pulling the trigger at 12, I don't think anybody would criticize that. Now, I don't think he's going to provide the highest ceiling of anyone in the class, but I do think he's a big leaguer. He's had a first-round value on him since the Diamondbacks took him 27th overall, 28th overall in 2018, 2019. So he's been a known commodity, and I think you can take a little solace in that. But I think everything you said was spot on. I think Seattle is going to wait and see if Harry Ford falls to 12. They're going to wait and see if Kumar Rocker falls to 12. These are things that, 3 months ago we would have said you're insane, at least on the Rocker front. But, it does seem as though he's losing a little bit of helium as we move a little bit closer to the draft. So, Ford, Rocker. I don't think they're necessarily in play for Brady House, but we know they love Khalil Watson. So we'll see what happens. They are definitely one of those teams that's in a wait and see mode. But we do know they're targeting middle of the field players. That's what I'd look for with the first pick. And if it's not there with the first pick, I would certainly look for them to go with a high school shortstop or a high school second baseman with their second pick and try and fill that need. It's certainly a target.
Absolutely. Well, there you have it. The Seattle Mariners draft breakdown with Seattle Mariners expert and draft expert Joe Doyle. The Venn diagram is intersecting here. Thanks for tuning in.